What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Play the Fight Song podcast. As you can see, you're hearing a little bit of a different voice to start the episode here today. Parks is on his honeymoon. Congratulations to Parks. It was a hell of a weekend celebrating them and their new marriage. So we're absolutely pumped to be back together doing the Play the Fight Song stuff. But we're down a guy for the first time, I think, since we rebranded, he's missed one. So I bet he's got a little FOMO right now with a pina colada in his left hand.
Yeah, it's a hard time to miss it. You'll be okay, Parksy. Just look at the Mexican coastline. You'll be okay.
It's got to be one of those things where he's like, man, I really wish I was doing this right now. And then like takes a drink and just reminded himself, he's like, actually, this is pretty good here. I'll be okay. I'm good for now. Okay. I'm good for a little bit.
If we're going to be honest, I mean, Camden Parks probably would rather be on a podcast than be sitting by a pool. I mean, that's Cam
No
Parks.
way. He loves his wife very much.
No shade or nothing. I'm sure. Yeah, she's not listening. It's all right. The rumor has it he might not ever come back. I heard marriage. He just got handed over on Saturday. That was his last podcast.
It's been stressful.
I think the biggest stress about the trip was not necessarily missing the show, but it was, is the food going to be good? He was a little worried about, you go to resorts, some food so bad it mess up your stomach bad enough. Sounds like night one, he found out it was all going to be good. So
there he is.
Pumped for him there. I think he showed us some like lobster.
Of course he's tuning in.
Yeah.
He's probably, he's probably at dinner. Yeah. Probably at a fancy restaurant, just sitting on his phone.
Tequila shot, senor?
Schaefer, it's either me or you to miss the next show. Like JP was in Mexico for one of these shows. Now me or you's got to be gone to go to Mexico or something.
I can't
he
miss.
did. He went to
It ain't going to be
Islands.
me. It ain't going to be me.
Schaefer went to the Virgin Islands, if we
I'm
remember.
not going there anytime soon.
But we didn't record that week.
Oh, remember? That's true. That was our bye week. Because we had to prep.
Schaefer got
August.
lucky.
Guys, I have no life. This is my life. I'm not missing a show. I'm like Cal Ripken. I'm like Cal Ripken.
You literally would have missed one. You literally would have missed one if we would have recorded that week.
Just goes to show who the show is around here, apparently.
But it's August now, so we had to lock in. We got to pump things up. We have a couple more previews we had to get to. UConn, UMass, and then a bigger one with Notre Dame. We didn't know where to play Notre Dame. Big Ten was already pretty full. All the conferences with their expansion, adding Notre Dame on top of those was a little too much. So we're going to do Notre Dame here in this episode, along with win totals. We have win totals that we want to just converse about between us three. We have win totals that we really like and want to bet. We have win totals who I would say, Reese, it sounds like you had a couple you think in agreement on, and I think that maybe people have gotten a hint if you watched our preview episodes. If you haven't had a chance to do that, check those out on YouTube. All of our Power Conference and G5 conferences, all of our previews are on YouTube. That's Play the Fight Song on YouTube. Go back and watch those. Those are going to be great until the season starts. And we just got in-season content nonstop. So again, check us out there. Check us out on TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, all those places at Play the Fight Song. Reese, tell them a little bit about our sponsor and one of our good friends and partners over at No Rivals.
Yeah, if you need a new hat to support your favorite team this year, or maybe you're just a fan of college, random colleges like we are, go ahead and shop No Rivals. You go in there. They got all these different types. My personal favorite is the Espresso collection. They got vintage. They got hometowns. They got everything you'd want. Go look for one. Go look at it. Get in your cart. Push the purchase button, and then take yourself off for some free shipping. Use code PTFS. Get yourself some free shipping. Get yourself a hat. They got fairway collection. If you're a big golfer, they got nice white hats. They just came out with the blackout collection. Any type of style you could want, go ahead and look at Shop No Rivals.
It's a great breakdown because they do have just about any hat that could go with any outfit. If your guy likes to color coordinate, they got the orange and white for Tennessee and Oklahoma State. They got the espresso, like Reese said, that goes just about everything. The fairway collection. It's been awesome to partner with them, and they've sent us some really cool stuff. And shameless plug, honestly, it's been awesome to partner up with them here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start with UConn. We'll go to UMass, and then we'll do Notre Dame. Since there's three of us here, and these are smaller schools, we're not going to do the individual breakdown. We're just all kind of share this together and kind of go back and forth off each other. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass this one over to Jake to give you a breakdown on the UConn Huskies here in 2024 and what you can expect out of this program going forward in 2024.
Yeah, year 3 for Jim Mora. Year 2 kind of took a little bit of a regression after a very unexpected great year 1. I believe they even won 6 games and went to a bowl game. So when you have the opportunity at UConn for football, in case if you have the chance to win 6 games, that is a win in itself. So the question is, can Mora get this team back to bowl eligibility? We'll have to wait and see. They lose their starting quarterback in Taquan Roberson. He goes over to Kansas State. Do you remember this guy? He was the guy who stepped in that Iowa game as a freshman, JP, at Penn State. He was a high 4-star kid. Honestly, was a nice piece for them, threw for over 2,000 yards and obviously had an ability to use his legs. So they're going to have to look somewhere else to find his replacement. I'll talk about that in a minute. They lose Justin Jolie. He's a really good 4-star tight end. He heads off to NC State, where I expect him to have a big role with Grayson McCall in that offense this year. 24 transfers come in. If you're a team like UConn, you're going to expect this. We're going to talk about UMass here in a minute as well. These high numbers and transfers, guys coming in and out. It's just kind of something to expect with a program right now that you're just trying to survive year after year and stay competitive. The one thing that stood out to my eye is they brought 6 guys in May. When you look at something like that, probably not great. They either are a little concerned about the depth or they're really concerned with a certain position. I don't love the idea of a lot of guys coming in May and then jumping right into fall camp. You probably want them around at least a little bit during the spring or even for spring ball. When you look at the offense, Victor Rosa and Cam Edwards, this is the best part of their offense. These are the 2 running backs. They're just going to have to run the ball to be better. At least at quarterback, you got the Fagano kid from Maine, who's probably going to be the starter, or you got Nick Evers, who came from Wisconsin, who never, I don't think he saw any action last year.
No, I think he got a couple snaps throughout like injuries that Wisconsin was dealing with. For me, it sounds like they like the Fagano kid, but the Evers kid seems like a higher upside choice. And so I'm not really sure what their plans are there, but I'm happy you touched on the running backs because I think that is a better point of this team. It's not 2 guys that are going to run for 1,000, but if you can get them to 7 and 6 or 5 and 6, like they did a season ago, I think it definitely helps the team. Defensively, like look at this first year defensive coordinator, Matt Brock, comes in and changing up the scheme a little bit, going to try to do some new things. It's UConn defense nonetheless. Like things can get better, but you're still probably going to rank outside of the top 80, 90 in the country in most defensive categories. They gave up a ton of points a season ago. It's a UConn program that's really trying their hardest right now for sure.
I was going to say one thing too, the difference between this year and last year, and Reese, we'll get your opinion on it too in a second. They were 1-4 in 1 possession games last year. I'd have to go back the year before in Jim Moore's first year. I'm assuming they were better. That's why they had the ability to win 6 games. But 1-4 in 1 possession games last year, you could take that as a bad stat, but you could also look on the bright side and say, this is UConn football. They're actually in games. They're competitive.
Those games.
This is a basketball school, right? You win back-to-back national championships in college basketball. People just want something to be competitive and something to watch in the fall. I think they're going the right direction. Do you have any more thoughts on UConn before we kind of wrap up this team?
Reese, go along with me on this. Yeah. Win total 4.5. Win total 4.5. I think there's a possibility to get to 5, right? Like with this number and this schedule, it gets significantly easier here in 24. Like last year was kind of a tougher UConn schedule. This one, I think, is ranked outside of the top 110 strength schedule across the country. Here's our games that are kind of looking at, and I'm like, you got a shot, you got a fighter's chance in this one. Merrimack, FAU, Buffalo, Temple, Georgia State, UAB, and UMass. Now, again, some of those more than others are probably worth a little more squeeze with a chance of getting a win, but I think the opportunities there, I'm not screaming bowl eligibility in 24, but I think the opportunity to get to 5 or 6 is real. Reese, when you look at that schedule and how much easier and more manageable it gets, if you're UConn and you get out of the gate with Maryland, you just take your lumps and then straight to Merrimack, Duke, Florida Atlantic. How do you get a team when a program like this going the right direction and with a mindset of this can only get better, right?
Well, I think what helps is they have 6 straight home games in the middle of that schedule. Like that's massive, and you have a bye week in there too. So you're not traveling a lot. You're not having wear and tear on these guys before you do. Your last 3 games of the year are all on the road. But I mean, you're getting a majority of those games at home. I think all their bigger games, the Maryland, Syracuse, and Duke, like those are all road games. But everybody else that's a manageable and winnable game is at home. So that's helpful. I think if you're going to use the schedule to your advantage, having those games be at home, I think is massive, especially in the middle of the year when you can have that, in your back pocket, especially like like Jim Moore is a good coach. He's been a proven winner where he's at, and UConn is just a spot where you can have success, but like, is it sustainable? Because with the portal like we're in right now, like I think their best hopes, like where we're at right now, is like a 6 or 7 win season, and then like guys are just gonna leave. But I don't know, them getting to a bowl game, I think is doable. But like I said, with all those home games, I think it's more manageable.
Yeah, for sure. That is the UConn Huskies there in 2024. I think if we're leaning, I'm thinking over, but that's a slight. I mean, I'm thinking 5 at most here.
Well,
yeah,
I was looking at their schedule last year. Underrated, tough schedule. They played 9 teams who went to a bowl game, and they won at Rice. Rice went to a bowl game for the first time in whatever it was. It's so many years of program history. So they kind of put it together. I don't know. I look at Merrimack, Temple, Georgia State at home, and at UMass. Those are 4 games you're going to be favored in, right? I would think.
Yeah, the Georgia State one is iffy to me because I still don't know in FAU, but Georgia State's not going to be great just with everything.
Georgia
that
State
left
at
that
home.
program.
That's what I'm saying. I think they're going to be favored in that football game.
It'll come down to how good the quarterback play is, and I think how much the defense improves. And if they need to get in slugfest, I think they'll struggle to win more
their offensive line wasn't awful last year either. They only gave up 12 sacks. I mean, they weren't a fantastic offense. They were pretty balanced. I think they threw for 190 and they rushed for 140, so they're pretty balanced. But you give up 12 sacks a game, that's a pretty solid line. If you can get a competent quarterback who just isn't going to turn the ball over because he can stand upright, that's going to help out too.
For sure. That's UConn there in 2024. Let's go to a team who I'd say rivals. I'd dare to say rivals here. Usually play last week of the
conference rivals.
The year. Yeah, if you can call it. They're playing for our FBS Independence national title. Sorry, Notre Dame, you don't count for this one. Let's jump to the UMass Minutemen. 3-9 in 2023. This is a UMass program who is perennially known as just being probably 134 out of 134 each and every year. This year, luckily, Kennesaw came around and ULM usually battling for it. But UMass, again, usually a dynasty pick for a lot of people. They come into this year with hopes of getting a little bit better. They had a big win to start last year with beating New Mexico State. You remember what New Mexico State went on to do, playing for a Conference USA title, ultimately beating Auburn late in that year. Jake, let's talk UMass a little bit. What do you see with UMass that you're happy with, that you like? Maybe some improvement here, or is it just this is just UMass once again here?
First of all, where else are you going to go to get UMass football plug? So no better place to be than play the Fights On College Football show.
We pride ourselves on all 134.
Who else is talking about these guys?
That's just part of it. I mean, that's part of it. It's a sport. It's not about 35 teams.
And you asked me, are there good things about this football team? I don't think so. Not that I have found. This team's not going to be very good. And it's obviously been historically, since they've been in FBS, one of the bottom 5 teams in all of college football. This is a team that hasn't won 4 games since 2018. They were the worst defense in FBS last year. They gave up 5 yards a carry. Any team that wanted to run the football on them surely could. We just talked about UConn. Yes, UConn was 3-9, but I just said they were 1-4 in one possession games. UMass never had any close games. I mean, they just got blown out week after week. They put 2 FCS teams on their schedule this year in Wagner and Central Connecticut State. That just
not good FCS programs, by the way.
No.
If you're curious, not good FCS programs.
No. The transfer portal, we look there, 30 new transfers, and these aren't guys who are bounce back Power 4 dudes. No, these are like, again, bad FCS schools that's where they're pulling their roster from. And it's just really concerning. If there's going to be guys you want to know, K'Ron Lynch Adams transferred. He was one of their best backs. He transfers up Power 4 level. And I look at a guy like Brandon Campbell, who's first was at USC, then was at Houston. Very limited playing time in both spots, but he might have a chance to finally be a number 1 option for somebody. And then everybody knows about Tyson Fumachan. I think I said that right.
Tyson Fumachan.
There you go.
Yep.
Guy can do
Tyson with TAI. Okay. Got that right.
I looked that one up. I looked that one up on the website, and he said it, Tyson Fumachan. I said
I should have.
I thought it was going to be.
We should have remembered him from last year, because I think I gave him when we were doing helmet stickers, because everybody remembers his
when they lit him up week 1.
Yeah.
Week 0, UMass comes out of the gate, and obviously Ty was talking to me earlier, and we were talking about UMass for some reason for the episode tonight. And he's like, "Wasn't UMass good?" I was like, "No. They were just they were very much an underdog in week 0, and they just screwed everybody's bets because there was like 7 games on that week.
Everybody parlayed the big favorites.
Yeah.
And then they were terrible after that. So no, UMass is still not good, and they're still searching for 4 wins.
100%. I think the Fumajon kid is a guy who played a little bit last year, then missed some time, and they were shuffling quarterbacks just due to injury last year. But a guy that has definitely shined. And the worry is, just like a UConn at a UMass, if a guy shines a little bit, somebody's going to come calling, and it's going to be hard for them to keep this kid around. Especially if you look at receiver, they're bringing back their leading receiver, and Anthony Simpson. This is a kid who legit, if he lights up for 800, 900 yards, not saying he can't. I mean, he was around high 6s last year. If he does, like, somebody's going to come calling and want this kid to play on their, bigger group of 5, lower P4 school. It's just one of those situations for them. I mean, you touched on how bad the defense was. 37.8 points a game, and 6 starters are back. But hey, guess what? That doesn't mean talent comes back. That's just a real thing. Like, we always, experience doesn't bring back talent. Like, it's the
a real thing.
Shout out to our fellows and the No Longer podcast of Stanford Steve and the Bear. I loved listening to those guys. They loved making that up. People would rattle off returning starters and like, yeah, but they weren't good starters. So like, what is it? Addition by subtraction is a real thing in college football as well. This strength of schedule is not a UMass easy schedule. This is ranked 79 according to Feel Still throughout the country, 120th a year ago. So the schedule gets harder. You're maybe not as talented in some spots, especially on the defensive side of the ball. A win total of 3.5. And 2 FCS schools, like, we're pushing this, right? Like, we're pushing getting to 3 in some spots. I think playing Toledo, Buffalo is not going to be easy. I mean, they just go through the MAC at gauntlet before jumping into the MAC at 25. I don't know if you guys looked at that and saw that.
No, I did look at their schedule. I have a play on this, but I kind of want to, keep the people around.
So we could save it. We could save it. Save it for the win totals later.
You got a sick puppy to be betting an over-under for this team.
Give me UMass first quarter under a half point.
Missouri coming to town and Liberty.
Yeah, I saw
Missouri
that too.
And Liberty to come to town.
That's crazy.
Was Missouri trying to save some cash? Be like, hey, we'll come to you one year if you come to us the next. We just won't pay you the same bag,
Well,
no,
it was the stigma with SEC schools. Everybody was crapping on them, like, you guys won't travel and play anywhere. And Missouri's like, we're going to UMass.
You say
we're traveling?
I don't know if you know this or not, but the Minutemen at home, ruckus. There's tens of people out there screaming our name. It's going to be definitely an interesting season for UMass. So that's UConn, and that is UMass here in 2024. 2 programs, again, that kind of sit in the bottom of the barrel for most of the time in the FBS, and hoping to get off the mat. UConn seems to be in a better situation than UMass at this time, as they put a whooping on them last year. I think they won by 2 scores a season ago. Now let's jump into the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is how we're going to do this quick. We're going to go. Schaefer's going to cover the offense. I'll cover the defense. We'll jump down to Reese for overall schedule look and the team as a whole and what he's seen here in 2024. There has been some new news come out about Notre Dame, so let's pay attention to what Jake's got to say here. This will be a normal breakdown. If you've seen our other videos and previews, this is very much the exact same thing. Just doing offense versus defense. It's one team here. So we wanted to split this up in a way that we could all kind of get our say in, and then we'll all talk about it at the end. So talking about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish here in 2024, Jacob, start us off.
Yeah, I think I'm glad we're covering Notre Dame now, because it really seems like there's just been a lot of newsworthy stuff around this football team during fall camp that we're catching them at a good time to preview. When you look at this team, they bring in a new OC in Mike Denbrock. He comes over from LSU when he was with Brian Kelly last year. LSU was a top 5 offense in college football. Obviously, we saw what they could do through the air with Jaden Daniels, who's going to be his quarterback in South Bend. They bring in Riley Leonard from Duke. Everybody knows that name, even if you're a casual in college football. I think it's really exciting. He replaces Sam Hartman, and honestly, he brings in a whole new play style at the quarterback position than Sam Hartman. So I'm really interested to see how that revolves around this offense for Notre Dame. I think it is an upgrade. Sam Hartman was around for a really long time. I thought he does some nice things with his arm, but Riley Leonard just does too many things dual threat wise that I think makes him a legit talent in college football. Who is he going to throw to? You get back Mitchell Evans at the tight end position. This is a top 5, maybe top 3 tight end in college football when he is fully healthy. I just saw a tweet today that he's running around doing a bunch of things out in fall camp. It looks like he's going to be ready to go by week 1. So really excited for that. I'm excited because he's like another Michael Mayer for them. So Notre Dame continues to produce great tight ends. Let's look at the wide receivers. Completely different look. The Merriweather kid transfers out. He goes to Cal along with a couple of other kids. Who do they bring in? Look at a guy like Chris Mitchell. This is a wide receiver from FIU who, frankly, I think is an upgrade from Merriweather and any of the other guys that transferred out. They're talking about this kid that he can be a legit deep threat and a big playmaker for them. I just, the 247 for Notre Dame's tweeting out things about him. They are really excited about this kid. You lose a guy like Audric Estime at running back. Again, like the Leonard and Hartman situation, they go two completely different backs in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. These are kind of like shorter, quicker, maybe receiving type running backs. I think they're pretty excited about them because they can be able to be receivers out of the backfield too, that quite frankly, Estime couldn't. He was kind of an old like Jerome Bettis type, your old power back that you don't normally see in college football anymore. So I think they're happy with where they're transitioning, but definitely Estime somebody they're going to miss in 2024. And then everybody knows about the starting left tackle that went down. I think it was a knee injury, or was it a shoulder? I don't know. Either way, he won't be around in 2024. Big loss for them because the Jagasaw kid, when you got a guy in Nick Scorton, who you're going up against in week 1 at Texas A&M, who could possibly be the best pass rusher in the SEC or at least top 2, they're going to have to find somebody right away. There is no UMass. There is no MAC school that you get to play the first week of the year to kind of, flip some things out on the offensive line. Here's one of the best pass rushers in college football. Good luck. You got to figure it out quickly, and they got to figure it out as the season goes along too, because they got Florida State and they got Louisville, who both have really good pass rushers too. So I like some of the weapons on this offense. It's going to be really exciting, but that injury at the left tackle spot really puts a damper on what I kind of think this offense could be in a top 10, 12 team playoff scenario.
Absolutely. This is a team that's been picked in a lot of spots to get into the college football playoff by a lot of people. Let's jump to the defensive side of things here. I wanted to touch on the defensive side because I think this is more kind of a Notre Dame identity. They've always been a pretty good defensive unit on everything. Marcus Freeman, obviously a defensive guy, so this is a unit he's very proud of and should be. Last year, they ranked in the top 10 in 3 major statistical categories defensively, and they bring back a couple guys who are legit All-American candidates and are going to be a day 1, day 2 picks in the NFL draft here coming up, and then Xavier Watts and Howard Cross. Howard Cross in the interior bolsters one of the better defensive tackle units and interior defensive lines that you've seen across the country for Notre Dame. And I'm pumped to watch him again because anybody that can plug holes and stop run, like this really helps with what their schedule is with teams like a Florida State, as Jake was just touching. Louisville gets a little creative in the run game. Like guys that can stop the run really helps this team. And you bring back talent and you give him a guy to his left and right that are legit. I mean, this kid's just going to flourish in that. Let's talk about Xavier Watts a little bit. He headlines probably one of the better safety duos, I think, in the country as well. This kid's a legit All-American. Ben Morrison is usually the corner that'll play on his side. These are 2 guys, 1-2 punch that can delete a side of the field in the passing game. And you saw it a season ago when they went up against like Ohio State and some other teams. Legit duo. I think the bigger question is who's going to play opposite corner. They'll need guys. They brought in a couple transfers that we're hoping to hit on that side of the thing, and Rod Hurd, Jordan Clark, more of a hybrid linebacker DB kind of thing. So maybe Rod Hurd will be that guy that comes in and really locks down, or maybe just improves that side of the ball and holds it down a little bit so they can make plays. And people aren't just attacking him, right? They have to go to Morrison's side of the field every once in a while to make some plays happen. The bigger question mark, I think, is on the exterior of the defensive line at the edge position. Where are we going to get sacks produced from? I think that's what they kind of lacked maybe a season ago, is a true pass rusher. Well, they went and dressed that in the Porter and RJ Oben. This is a guy who had 5 sacks at Duke a season ago. I think that's where they're going to majority lean on. And it's a team I still think it's going to be a top 20 defense for sure, top 15 defense in most statistical categories, but overall top 20. So it's not one that's really losing so many people that it gets crazy. When you were starters that you bring back, the 5 guys, and some other guys that got playing time are as high caliber as these guys are for Notre Dame. And with Freeman being the known defensive mind that he is, I think that there's a lot of hope for Notre Dame to continue to improve on this side of the ball. And like Jake was talking about with the offense, if the offense needs to, kind of get going and get its feet under it, sputtering a little bit, this is a unit I really think that they're happy to lean on to win them football games here. Talking about the Texas A&M game week 1, I don't think that's a bad opponent to necessarily go get everything figured out, right? Like, and you're on the road, like it makes it a little bit tougher, obviously defensive adjustments and how everything goes in a different atmosphere that you're used to, but it's an offense. I think that's not going to be, you saw Elko's offense at Duke and kind of what they want to do. And you're going to get the same thing out of Wegman. You're going to get the same thing out of a lot of those kids at Texas A&M. So I think they'll be ready and prepared for it. Overall, man, if I'm being honest with you, this is a team that I think majority of people around the country have in their 12-team playoff, but it's a program that needs to be 11-1, 12-0 to get that 5 seed to have a chance at, a home game, avoid the number 1 overall seed, kind of going through things to kind of live in a spot where you host a playoff game, presumably against the G5 representative, and then you go play somebody else that's maybe a mid-level seed or so. But we'll kind of see how that all works out. Reese, when you look at Notre Dame and all the hype that was around him, what do you see on this team and this schedule and this year in particular for Notre Dame? Is it another step forward? Does he what are you looking at here?
Well, I think the 12 team is a massive help. I don't think you're crazy to say they can get that 5. I mean, when you look at that schedule, going to Kyle Field is a challenge week 1, and it's Mike Elko, but that's still a lot of the guys that Jimbo brought into that school. And App State went in there week 2, was it last year or 2 years ago, and won that game. So it's not, and Notre Dame is a much, much more talented team, I think, that App State was going there. So for them to go in there and then win that game, I don't think it's out of the question. And I think the other toughest game you get too, like Louisville, you get at home. I don't see them dropping that game. You get Florida State at home later in the year, which that'll be tougher. But do we forget, DJU went there when he played for Clemson and did not have a very good game when they won that ball game too. So it's a very winnable schedule they have. I think 11-1 is more reasonable, but I don't think 12-0 is crazy. If they get that week 1 win against Texas A&M, I don't think 12-0 is off the table.
Yeah.
As long as Riley Leonard can stay healthy, because we know he had his issues last year too.
Correct. This win total sits at 10 on DraftKings, 10 flat. So people are not, they're on your side, Reese, 10 flat. There's not a lot of buffer room when you have 10 wins as your win total here. USC, Florida State, Louisville, Texas A&M, I think are the ones that you're kind of looking at. Definitely more coin flippers with A&M and Florida State. I think they'll be favored at home against Louisville. At USC late in the year, I think is going to just completely depend what we get out of Lincoln Riley this year. That could be a game where Notre Dame shows up and just bullies them like they did a season ago. Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think Danton Lynn's going to be a big factor in that game too, because what's that defense going to be like? But then the big thing for Notre Dame too this year is they brought in the new coordinator from LSU last year, and Mike Denbrock, who we saw what he did with that offense last year. Granted, he doesn't have Jaden Daniels and those 2 wideouts he had last year. Mm-hmm. But there's a reason why they went after this guy is because he's a great offensive mind, and they're giving him Riley Leonard, who has the dual threat capability. So I think this offense is going to be very, very well suited for this year.
Jake, you want to touch on the comment we got here in the chat?
Jake.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I know that this has been a big conversation for, I think, a lot of big national podcasts that I've even listened to. And the answer is kind of the same as everybody else's.
The question for people who couldn't see people on the podcast, it was, can Notre Dame make the playoff as a 10-2 team with their schedule?
Thank you, Reese. Appreciate you clarifying that. And
great podcasting, Reese.
So just say they lose first game of the year at A&M, and then they lose to Florida State at home. That means you beat Louisville at home. You won at USC, depending on how. Does it depend how good USC is this year?
I think if you beat them, it shouldn't matter. If you're 11-1 and you beat them.
No, you're 10-2. I said if you lose at A&M, you lose to Florida State at home. Doesn't it depend on how good USC is because there's no conference championship game for Notre Dame now.
I think they'll look at the last time. They'll be like, oh, well, those are teams that are better, and those are teams you lost to. I think they'll look at the losses a little bit harder and a little more.
It's that age-old. I think it's that question Gage asked last year too, where it's do you value your losses earlier in the year? Are they different than losses at the end of the year? If you lose that A&M game earlier in the year versus if you lose the USC game later in the year, how are they going to be?
Especially 4-team era, that loss late in the year hurt way more than I think it will in the 12. But for a Notre Dame that doesn't have a conference title or maybe, a conference, thing to hang their hat on is like, oh, by the way, but I'm a Big Ten school, right? Or I'm an SEC school. Like they can't just like lean back on that. They really got to win football games. Like plain and simple, this team has to win a lot of football games, and just to remove all doubt, because there will be by being an independent.
One thing to notice, remember their schedule last year where they went Ohio State, at Duke, at Louisville, and then they had USC at home. I mean, that's just a tough 4-game stretch, and they don't really have that this time around. Their road games are at Purdue, at Georgia Tech, and you're playing it in the Falcon Stadium. You got at USC. Like, I'm counting 4 or 5 road games. You go at A&M to start the year. Yeah, that'll be a tough game. But after that, you don't have like that at Louisville, at Duke, at Louisville after the Ohio State game was such a tough stretch. Like that's why they just got caught dead beat in that Louisville game where they were just gassed, and Louisville capitalized on it. But I think they have a really good shot at still going 11-1, even with the injuries on the offensive line.
I'm pretty bummed that they didn't give Georgia Tech that home game as well as Navy and Army. Let the boys go to Mikey Stadium. Can you imagine late fall Notre Dame coming to town? That place would be rocking. It'd be a ton of fun.
Yeah, why are they're playing Army and Navy both at neutral site games? One's in the Bronx and one's in New York.
Is that a Yankee Stadium game? Is my assumption if they're staying in the Bronx?
Please don't do those ugly Yankee Stadium jerseys again.
No, I think they got crucified for them. There's no way they
those
go back
were
to that. That was every 12-year-old's dream. I'm a Yankees fan. I'm a Golden State Warriors fan. A Notre Dame fan. I also like Florida.
Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah. All of them.
Dallas Cowboys.
But that's Notre Dame there in 2024. Obviously, going to be a very interesting year for Freeman. I don't think that he's in a situation where people are looking down upon him, but I do think he is in a spot where this is really going to tell you how far he's built this program now. So
I was going to say they can't lose they're probably going to lose that Deuce Knight kid to Auburn here, the 4-star quarterback they're super excited about, and his commitment, like they flipped him. They predict he's going to go to Auburn here soon. So that just
the education and the money, Deuce. What do you want?
Yeah, it hurts the recruitment side. So for Notre Dame fans, I think to be like hopeful for the future, like you're mentioning, JP, you got to get at least 10 wins.
100%.
Yeah.
Jumping now into win totals, what we'll do here is we all have win totals we like. We'll just kind of go in a circle. Schaefer's going to drive this because he sounds like he has a lot more than maybe we do. So I'm going to let him drive and kind of explain his thoughts on everything, and then push it around to each one of us, me and Reese, and we'll chime in with our picks, and then also on the ones he's already chosen.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys necessarily. Do you guys just want me to start rattling mine off, or just start with one and maybe bounce
we'll go
off?
You want to go round robin?
Okay, we can go round robin, but I got
don't take because then you just want to take all of them. Don't take all.
Yeah, you go one at a time because then there's not that. I mean, there's 134.
We'll go. Yeah, one by one, and then I'll list off the rest.
First T-shirt for the Play the Fight song.
Because how many?
1A, 1B, 1.
I think I have 11 here, by the way. So 11. Reese has 3.
All right.
I have 3 as well. But I had some.
If you had any.
I brought some for
Shape just
for
like
consideration.
Yeah. We're here to give people winners. I don't want just a couple. I got
honorable mentions too.
Yeah, let's go. I'll start us off. Let's just do again a team that we just got done talking about. I got UMass under 3.5 at -115. When I do an over under, I'm not trying to get a crazy number. If I can get plus money, that's great. But -115 is like putting in your normal bet for a spread or something like that. So breaking down this team, we just told you about them. They are one of the worst teams in college football. If they lose to Wagner or Central Connecticut State, you can cash that in. You can go turn it in early. They can't afford to lose both of those.
Schaefer wants to know by October.
Games. Yeah, let's know by October. Good Bear reference there, JP.
Yeah.
They play Missouri at home again. Like what the hell? It still blows my mind that they're so chalk that up for a loss. And let's just go through the rest of their schedule. At Miami of Ohio, preseason MAC favorite team. At Northern Illinois, going to be a top 5 MAC team. At Mississippi State, you're not beating an SEC team. At Toledo, who's
capital L
1B in the MAC projections right now. You get Liberty at home. You get Missouri at home. Just told you about those two teams. And then, guys, don't forget at the end of the year, they got to go at Georgia. At Georgia.
So, they're gonna have funding for next year. Fun fact: they're going to Mississippi State and to Georgia. They got funding for next year, so we're good.
You better pay them a hefty penny if you're the Dogs.
Yeah.
Here, and last thing I'll touch on them, if they're gonna hit this win total over, for those who are going against me, you got to win both the FCS games I just touched on. You have to beat Eastern Michigan at home, who you lost to by 2 last year, and then you have to beat UConn at home, who came in and beat you by double digits last year. You have to win those 4 games.
That's it. That's only 4 possible wins.
It doesn't matter if you lose 100-0 in Athens.
That's
just
all we
win
got.
those 4 games.
We're out of 12. If you can count them, we're out of 12. That's
under on this team.
Perfect. Let's pep things up. I'll go to my side over here. Let's pep things up with Utah over 9.5. Now, Big 12 is weird. You start betting overs in the Big 12, it's going to get hairy no matter what you do. But at 9.5, I think this is the best team, the most well-rounded team within the Big 12. I also think they benefit from a schedule. It's a little easier than some others in the Big 12, but with a returning quarterback in Cam Rising, now I understand he didn't play last year, but I am considering this a returning quarterback with experience that can really do things. I'm not a big fan of betting win totals of teams with a new quarterback or a quarterback that's super young. Now, I contradict myself later in the show when we go to a certain team, but I think it's different in that situation. Utah, I do think, is the best team in the Big 12, and I think with the schedule that's laid out, the defense is going to be able to handle a lot of these teams on the schedule, and I think the offense, if it's not the firepower we saw in the Rose Bowl a couple years ago against poor defenses, I think it's one that can sustain itself throughout the year. Games that I had circled that are going to kind of make or break this, right? At Oklahoma State super early, versus Iowa State, at UCF last week of the year. I think if I can get to 9-2, let's just say, let's call it 9-2, week 14 or whatever that is, when they go to UCF, I think things get interesting. It's kind of depending on where UCF is on everything and how the Big 12 race is, but it's not a team that's going to give up because you can't lock yourself into the Big 12 title game that easy with how tough that conference will be and how packed it will be in the middle. So Utah over 9.5. I do think that one's worth the squeeze, but the Big 12 scares me definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys look at it. I just think they're better than the other teams on the schedule and the tougher ones they get at home. So that's where I am with Utah.
I think Cam Rising's your X factor there. If he stays healthy, you feel more comfortable about it. But if he doesn't, then you get a little more dicey.
Yep, 100%.
Just some sneaky road games at Oklahoma State, even at Colorado. If Colorado's any decent, like if they're battling for bowl spot, they're still going to sell that place out at the end of the year. At UCF is a terrifying place to play. I think you need to have your 10 wins. You need to be 10-1 going into that week, Jordan. I'm kind of saying that. I don't love that game.
So you can trade me the Colorado one, but then that just means I'm getting one of those 3 that I already called maybe.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying, like, you can only I
get Oklahoma State. If I get Oklahoma State in week 4, this is already hot. This is happening.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's my thought.
I'm just saying I don't want a 9
early.
I don't want a 9-win Utah team going to Orlando. I don't want any part of it.
Could be interesting. Last time the Utes were in Florida, it was a weird one that they had no business losing. If you remember that game at the Swamp.
Pump fake, Anthony Richardson.
Reese.
Can we talk about it, guys? We've talked about this one before, but you know where I'm going with this. Syracuse. You can get this at plus money, 7 or 7.5, depending on the book you're looking at. You can get this for plus 125. We talk about this schedule. I don't care. It's going to be a lot of fun this year. If Georgia Tech week 2, I think is kind of a tougher game that you're gonna find out if they have it squared away right away. But if you get that game, and I do think they will, you're 5-0 heading into Raleigh. And I'm not saying they go on the road, they beat NC State, but if you're 5-0, like that's where you get a little bit of belief within the team, and believing is contagious. And especially when you have a guy like Kyle McCord, LaQuinn Allen, you get your defense kind of revamped, you have your guys out wide. Like, you're a different Syracuse team than this NC State team has seen. You can put up a pretty solid fight, and you can go, like, if you win that game, I think then it's just easy sailing. I think they're at least getting to 5-0 going into that game. And then after that, you got Vatech, and you get Pitt, and you end the year with Miami at home. Everywhere else in between, I mean, you get Holy Cross, you have the year with Ohio. they're also, I think their first 5 games of the year are all at home too, as well. That their first 5 years are all at home, and that's a massive help. And then I think even if you lose that game with Georgia Tech early in the year, I think this team still goes 8-4. And if you play very well and everything syncs up, I don't think 10-2 is crazy. Like, I really don't think it's that crazy.
Wow. Look, it's definitely crazy.
It's
You're sounding like Parks right now with Nebraska.
If they stay healthy, I think
this is Kool-Aid.
And then I mean, I think the one problem though is there's going to be some random game in there. They're going to slip up, kind of like Louisville last year when they lost to Pitt, like out of nowhere. Like, I think there's maybe one slip up game in there, like maybe going to Cal where you're flying all the way across the country and travel's a little different. Like, I think that's maybe there's like a kind of a weird wrinkle in there. But I think 7.5. I think this team can easily get to 8. I really think if everything clicks, especially if you start off the year hot and that whole believing in each other is going to be contagious, I think this team's going to be just fine this year.
This
Kool-Aid is purple. I can see it. It must be delicious, the amount you're drinking.
Well, it was kind of like when we talked about Notre Dame last year, like comparing schedules. Syracuse had no breaks after they started off 4-0 last year. Let's list it off because they went on that 5-game losing streak. You get Clemson at home. You had to go at North Carolina, at Florida State, at Virginia Tech when they just started catching fire. And then you had Boston College at the end of it. And that's kind of just the wheels fell off the wagon at that point.
Yeah.
There's not a stretch in this schedule where I'm like, damn, they got 3 weeks in a row of just a grind. They have at NC State, okay. Then they have at Pitt the following week. Pitt, I'm very unsure about. I'm sure Syracuse would be okay. So 8 wins is definitely feasible to me. 10, Reese, I think you're insane.
We'll see. I'll raise you 9. I'll meet you at 9.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right. Do you want me to start the next one?
Yep. Go to the next one.
Shave.
Okay. Before I give you guys the rest of your winners, I figured we should throw this in to make Parks happy. If you watched this far, please click subscribe. We are at 449?
Yeah, we're pushing 500.
We are getting there, and we appreciate all of you guys tuning in every single week and keeping us afloat. Let's go
If you're not watching us on YouTube, click the link in our description in our X or Instagram or Facebook. You'd be able to get there. You can subscribe there.
There you go. There you go. Let's go to the other side of the holy war. I have BYU under 4.5 wins. There are, like you said, JP, you got to be careful when you're betting the Big 12 and a lot of these teams you're just going to be hitting and miss on. Well, I'm going to take the bottom. I'm going to go the bottom and go from there. I think BYU is just not going to be a very good football team this year. They have no identity at quarterback. The Retzloff kid probably will be the starter from everything I've been seeing on Twitter. I did not love the way he played last year. I think a lot of defenses in this league can get him very confused. Iowa State in particular really got after him. Oklahoma that week too had a terrible pick 6 in that football game. And they're going to turn to Gary Bohannon if that doesn't work out. I think I'm sitting okay with that. They just have no depth on the offensive and defensive line. They have a couple of good pieces, like guys that could be all conference type players, but you need depth in this league. And I think they found that out the hard way, and they didn't really go and replace much in the offseason this year. Ben Bywater was their best defensive player in the middle linebacker spot. He's out for the season. He said he's retiring from college football or whatever I saw on Twitter as well. Their non-con does you no favors. At SMU, at Wyoming. We saw what Texas Tech did when they traveled to Laramie last year. I'm expecting the same thing for the Cougars this time around. I got to pull up their entire schedule here in just a minute, but I don't see this team winning more than 4 games, and I don't see them going undefeated in the non-con as well. So
yeah,
under 4.5.
Kentucky had a good program running there, and I think it just when everything moved to the Big 12, they were just on their downswing for the first time in a couple years. It just hit at an awful time for that program, if I'm being completely honest. So your friends over in Provo definitely not happy with that choice, Shafe, that you made a year ago, but
they can understand.
I think they understand. Yeah, I think they understand.
I'd love to go back. Well, look at this. They got at SMU, at Wyoming, Kansas State at home, at Baylor, Arizona, Oklahoma State at home, at UCF, at Utah, Kansas, are they favored after they get through the? I mean, I just listed all those. I'm not sure. Thinking about it, I don't think they're favored in any of those football games.
Nope.
Probably not. If I were a bet man,
home field don't mean that much there.
100%. Let's jump to the next one here. I'll go here. I'm going to go to the group of 5 here. I think it's the first group of 5 non-independent. We already talked about in this
UMass
here deal. I'll take Memphis over 9. Now, I found them at 9. You have to do some hunting. That's on DraftKings. Everybody else has got 9.5. But I want 9 specifically because I don't think this team will lose this 4 games. I think it's too talented of a team going up against, for the most part, an average American conference. Like, I feel like the Americans kind of lost its step this year. Still very good teams at the top of UTSA, at Tulane, Memphis, obviously. But it's kind of lost its step in the middle to the bottom of the pack. So I think in the American here, I think this is easily the best team in the conference. Now, I didn't pick this team to make it to the American Conference title, but if you go back and listen to that preview, I explained to you why, because just how the tiebreakers work, that's kind of where I saw it landing. And the defense can do a little bit to improve. Like, let's just punch up a little bit out of our class, I think would be perfect, and we'd get there easily. Hennigan's a stud. This team's fun to play with. College Football 25, you haven't had a chance. The offense is just electric. Here is where I'm just going to list off some games that, not the whole schedule, but the ones that get questionable. And a lot of these are on the road, so please hang with me here. At Florida State, at South Florida, at UTSA, at Tulane. Now, I don't like the fact that these are all on the road, these tougher ones, but I'm getting one of those, Jake. I'm getting one of those. If they run the rest of them and I get one, it's at worst a push.
And you push, yeah.
I don't see them losing all of them. I don't see them slipping up against a Navy or a Middle Tennessee or North Texas. The teams they have on this schedule that aren't the 4 I just listed are medium to the bottom of the barrel of the American, and that's why I like over 9 for Memphis. 9, not 9.5. You got to hunt for 9.
Yeah, you got to get
That's
9.
fine. Go do some looking, people.
I like that play at 9. 9.5 scares me. I cannot.
I grabbed it specifically because I saw 9. Otherwise, I didn't want any part of it.
All their 4 toughest games are literally all on the road. I mean, those are straight up for all 4 of the best opponents.
Not great.
Gonna find out, boys.
We're gonna find out how good that team is. But I do like that pick if you can get it at 9. What'd you say the odds were for that?
I think you got to pay a little bit more for 9 at DraftKings. I don't know exactly what that number is, but I think it'd be like a 140. Let me just look real quick. I got DraftKings pulled up. No free ads.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we get a sports book to sponsor the podcast?
You can get Memphis over 9 at plus 100 actually. So their juice has gone the other way.
I like that. I'm with that. That's a bet I would place. I like that pick, Jordan. Good pick.
Perfect. Reese, going to you.
Say my next one. It's a little heavier there. About what you can get it for 160 minus 160. But I got LSU. Heavy. I got LSU under 9.5. I think you just look at their schedule, and I think you look at. We just talked about this team, but their offensive coordinator left. You have to replace your Heisman quarterback. You do lose your weapons out wide. And then I didn't talk about it before I talked about this team, but they do have a very solid offensive line. But it's also you're putting a lot of faith in a guy to captain your offense who has not done that yet. He hasn't been there for a full season. So hopefully he is the guy for them. But I think with LSU, I think where they're at right now, there's just I don't trust that defense. I'll just be honest. That's my issue. You bring in your new coordinator from Missouri. But again, they tried the same idea last year. Let's bring in guys from the portal, see if they can fill in. And I'm not sure if they got the right amount of guys to do the job they need to. That offense can score a lot, but if that defense is just going to be an issue as well, then I just don't know if they can get over this number. You do have Death Valley in your back pocket, which is a hard place to play. The only way I see them going over is if teams just go in there and they're just terrified of the lights and they just turn the ball over and they give this offense multiple opportunities. But I just think this defense isn't there for a team that's going to win 10 football games.
It's fair. I think it's a fair point, Reese. I think you hit it on the head. Like, you're downgrading it offensively. Just statistically looking at the 2 guys you lost to the NFL and Neighbors, and why am I blanking on? And Jaden Daniels. Automatic downgrade. Yeah, just automatic downgrade. Like, even if this is a really good offense, it's an automatic downgrade. And is the defense getting any better? Really make a difference? I mean, sure, I guess it was pretty damn bad.
Maybe let's hope they hope.
Jake, to you.
Yeah, I'll give you 2 SEC plays, and they just so happen to be unders. I got like a ton of overs, but I've given you guys all of my under plays. First one,
later.
You said heavy juice, Reese. I'll go heavy as well. I mean, I think if you really want to do it, Texas under 10.5 is a good bet. I don't know, especially with CJ Baxter going out today. And then you look at, I just don't love that they haven't found an identity with their interior defensive line. The passing defense was poor last year. How is that going to translate in the SEC? You saw what LSU did. Like, teams just took apart that defense. I could be the same similar situation for Texas. And then a lot of unfamiliarity at the skill positions. I think that could be good. I think the Bolden kid could be really good. Isaiah Bond's good, but it's too unfamiliar for me. And with the 12-team playoff, we have to think, guys, like the 12-team playoff has a lot to do with some of these big over and unders, because the sense of urgency might not be there for a Texas team that has 10 wins with 2 weeks left, and they kind of just pack it in. They're like, yeah, we're good. We're gonna make the playoff. We're fine.
Yeah.
So that's one to consider. But this is a legit play that I have. South Carolina under 5.5 wins at plus 110. You're getting plus money for this. I like the Sellers kid, but he's a freshman quarterback. He's going to take his lumps. I think you give Beamer time. This could be a good program, but I just don't think this is the year. This is the games that they wish they could have had at home. You wish you could have Kentucky at home. You wish you could get Vandy at home. I know it's Vandy, but you really wish you probably could get them two at home so you could have some for sure wins on your schedule. Ole Miss at home, at Alabama, at Oklahoma, Texas A&M. That's a 4-game stretch in their schedule. We talked about Notre Dame's stretch last year. We just talked about Syracuse's stretch. You really want to stay away from these 4-game stretches where you're not going to be favored in any of those games. South Carolina's got them. The main returning starters are on defense who are in the secondary, and the secondary is probably the worst part of their defense last year. So the returning talent's not even there. I'm going under 5.5. I think this team could even get 5 and 7. We're going to talk about this team going into 2025. That could be maybe a dark horse in the SEC. So that's what I got for that under.
So we're a year away, you think?
Yeah, I think we're a year away.
The Gamecocks.
That's fair. That's a fair point. I'll go here. I'm going to give you an under. This will be my first under I've given you. I'm going to say the other one. I think Reese might have the same one because he hasn't said the one that he said, I don't know. We're going to hold that one back. But I hate to do this to this school. It's got a special place in my heart. And I've really worked really hard to make it a destination for a lot of kids across the country. ULM under 2.5. There's this stigma out there. When I previewed ULM, I'm going to tell you right now, you get them early or you ain't getting any at all because you need to get Jackson State week 1. That's got to happen, right? And then you've got to somehow get either Southern Miss, I don't see it, Louisiana, or UAB. And we got to get 3. I don't know, man. I mean, I like the hire they bring in with Bryant Vincent, but I just don't see it this year. Like, this is not the year I really see things happening. The guys they brought in were starters other places. They're bringing guys in from the lower programs. Hey, year 3 and 4, I might be betting this over. Year 1, I'm going under 2.5. You're going to have to pay for it, too. I think it's around 135. But just the Warhawks need me in their life, and I've been doing my best on the PlayStation.
They need a lot, man.
But General Booty just is not going to be the answer here. I think it might be better than what they've had in the past, but not good enough. So under 2.5 for the ULM Warhawks.
Where else?
Sorry, ugly number to have. Just an ugly number to have.
Where else could you go for your UMass and your ULM unders?
Just saying.
No other place. No,
just saying. I hate to do it, but dude, I had to.
It is scary how bad this ULM team is power ratings wise. It is significant.
Hey, congrats on the new helmets, though. I mean, they just reworked the how they have the helmets that have like the plane.
Yeah,
they redid it just into their colors instead of just the classic gray and red. Yeah. So, Reese, to you on these next ones.
I think I'm gonna take this one from you, JP. I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna go over on this one though. I'm gonna ride with you on UCF. I think this is going to be a great team this year. You previewed them. Oh, you're going to go.
JP said
we going head to head.
JP said
go head to head on it.
No.
Work out for him.
I
was this close.
JP
I called no. That win total was 6 or 6.5 last year. I said 8. Like, we were right there. I just called for way over.
They did have that one blowout, but also because you're talking about. Let me explain a little bit. Malzahn is very high on KJ. I mean, he's saying he's the best thing he's had. That reminds me of Cam Newton. Not saying KJ difference Cam Newton. If he was, he would have been there by now. But if you're bringing in your guys in the backfield you have with Harvey, and you're just going to have that rushing attack with KJ, that just going to open up guys down the field. And I mean, when you look at their schedule, I think you get them either going 5-1, maybe 6-0 going into Ames if things go extremely well. And then if you get to that number, you get Arizona and West Virginia. That'll be tougher games later on in the year too. But if this team is playing that well, I don't think it's that crazy. West Virginia will be a tougher team this year. Their schedule is just kind of what hurts them. I previewed them before. But I think that's still a game you can get. And then, if you get to those numbers, you put up, or Phil still has this team projected to score at least 34 a game. If that defense can find a way to just be stingy, force turnovers, and keep the other team off the field, and let KJ run the ball and then chew up some clock, I don't think it's crazy for this team to reach over that number. I'm not saying they get to 9. I think 8 is safe. I think 7 is at least guaranteed in there, but I think 8 is very doable. They just got to KJ's health is also kind of a concern too. But I think with everything they have around him, because at Arkansas you had Rocket Sanders, but they weren't able to do as much with him. So I think with the better back you have this year, I think you're going to have a lot more options for KJ to do a lot more with his legs and with his arm.
Love it. Just it's pro nights a couple of years. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, Jake, when is he just going to hit?
Yep. If I go every year.
Yeah, let me where do I want to go with this? I got all my overplays. Let's go to
7.
let's stay in the let's stay in the Sun Belt. Back on JP. I'm gonna go Texas State over 8.5 plus 118. Sun Belt, I kind of said it in our preview, likes to shoot itself in the foot, but I think this team is different. And when you get guys at App State beating each other over the head with each other's helmets, I'm feeling really good with the Texas State winning the Sun Belt bet right now in August. I'm feeling really good with where that's at. So why do we want to pick Texas State's over? Their non-conference is pretty manageable. Lamar, you get UTSA at home this year. Arizona State comes to town. That's a team that you can bounce on just like you did at Baylor last year. And you get at Sam Houston. Your non-con's pretty manageable. I could see 3-1, maybe even 4-0 in some scenarios. Your conference road games, very easy. Troy, Louisiana Monroe, South Alabama, Old Dominion. From what I figured, I think I got 3 of the 4 are new head coaches, first-year head coaches out of that group. So your road games are easy in the conference. Take care of business at home. You have the Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year in Jordan McLeod. I think that offense is going to be really good. Defense brings back 8 of 11 starters. It's going to be an improved group. I legitimately like this team to win 9, maybe even 10 games, especially in the Sun Belt.
If they get 3 out of 4 in the non-con, I'm looking at 10, a little more possibility, but I think 9 is kind of where that team sits. GJ Kinney's cooking down there. I don't know how much longer he'll be in San Marcos if they go that route and win 9 or 10, but a fun program to watch nonetheless, for sure. Let's go to the ACC. Let's go to the ACC. How about a team by the name of the North Carolina Wolfpack here?
North Carolina Wolfpack? Really?
North Carolina State. Sorry,
there we go.
NC State Wolfpack. I'm going to go over 8.5. Yep. Sorry, everybody. Just a slip. Don't worry about it.
We're only
over
human.
8.5. I think the schedule works into this team's favor. Now, this is the one I was talking about, like experienced quarterbacks have been around a little bit. Grayson McCall has, just not NC State that he's been at. So I think he's a good quarterback. He's got to stay healthy. And, the step up in competition might make a difference. Don't expect 2020, 2021 numbers out of the kid, but he's going to be a step up from what they got a season ago. Like Brennan Armstrong just wasn't it. MJ Morris was solid when he was around, but I think McCall could be better than them both. They also bring in Jordan Waters at running back. I mean, Casey Concepcion, this is 3 guys. If you want to put a 3-headed monster together, this is one of the better ones in the country for sure, in my opinion. ACC title appearance is possible. I mean, I have him in my ACC title game. I think at 10-2, 1 conference loss doesn't break this, which is beautiful because Tennessee, neutral site, and then at Clemson are the 2 that I'm like, if you give those losses, I still think 1 more loss throughout is possible, but 9-3 is a good year for them. If they can get to 10 for the first time in program history, I'm all in. I just don't see them losing 2 other games other than Tennessee and Clemson. But let's just keep McCall healthy. Let's be within ourselves. And we got to replace Peyton Wilson on the defense, who is, I think we're going to really see early on how much impact he had just calling things out and managing that defense. So over 8.5, North Carolina State Wolfpack. I did it again.
Man, you did it again.
I did it again. Don't worry about it. It happens.
We lost Rutgers subscribers like 3 weeks ago with Reese, and now we
got away.
We lost every
JP, put your hand up. JP, it's all they want. Just put your hand up one time. So I
said it was me.
See,
I said it was my bad.
Right here.
I'm just excited about it. I don't have time to say all the words. I just want you to know I love your football team here.
They know what we're talking about.
Love them so much. You keep messing up their name.
Yep. They immediately clicked. This motherfucker don't know anything. He doesn't know anything. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I got some heat for not talking about LSU's offensive line. So we'll be all right.
Only makes that was like when I sent you the other day when Brock Osweiler was at Big 12 Media Days and he said the Iowa State Hawkeyes. Oh,
yeah.
I lost my mind. The mascot name's actually the worst. If you miss up the mascot name rather than the school name, you know what I'm saying?
To be fair, it just happened to be a school that actually has a normal non-state school in it. Like if I just said Sam Houston or like Jacksonville.
No, itself, like if you just said if you said the North Carolina State Tar Heels, that would have been bad.
Yeah, I feel like that's an actual mess up. Like you don't know what you're talking about. If I missed the word state in NC State, I don't think it's that bad, but it's still not great. Hand up.
Random fact, Shape. I don't know how you ever felt this, but when people called us the Carroll Kemper Knights, that drove me nuts. That just if they called it instead of saying Kemper Catholic, if they called us Carroll Kemper Knights, I lost my mind. Like,
well, now you know where me and Reese went to high school. So thanks.
Hey, look us up. Stay runner up, back-to-back years. What's up,
Reese? Am I taking over the next bet, or do you have any more?
I can go. I got some honorable mentions. I'll go with my favorite one first. I'm going G5 here for you, boys. I'm dipping my toes in it. But how about Hawaii over 5.5? Sounds a little fun. You got Timmy Chang.
We're getting there.
It's his third year out there. It's his third year out there. Remember, I talked about this guy at the beginning of the year. And maybe you're going to want to know. He was honorable mention last year. Your quarterback, Braden Shager, threw for 3,500 yards last year, 26 touchdowns. His issue was turning the ball over. You look at their schedule. I mean, when teams are coming to play you at your place, they're traveling a very long way. You have that home field advantage of wrestling. You also are going on the road. I understand that as well too. A little bit of jet lag, but I don't mind the Rainbow Warriors getting themselves into a bowl game, like I said. And when you look at their preview mag, if Field still has them, like this is the most complete unit he's had. It's his third year there. He fully believes in that defense and that offense to see what they can do. And I think the schedule favors them in some spots as well too. I mean, you get UNI coming to you, like you got guys coming from Cedar Falls, a decent FCS opponent to coming to you. So I like the Rainbow Warriors. I think 5.5 isn't crazy. You can get it for -110. It's literally one way or the other. It's a coin flip, and let's take a little ride. Let's have a little fun. How about Rainbow Warriors over 5.5?
How about the home state team going at Nebraska and at Hawaii in 1 year for the Panthers?
Yep,
it's tough.
What about that?
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, gotta cash some checks. All right. Well, I'll take the next one here before my computer just shuts off on me. Let's stay in the G5. Over 7.5 wins for the South Florida Bulls. I'm going with another young and up-and-coming head coach in Alex Golish. I think that this team is just straight up going to be really good. It's just a matter of can the defense figure some things out. We got to get to 8 wins. When you look at this schedule, you get Miami at home, you get Memphis at home. Now, I know the non-conference, it's not ideal with Miami and Alabama both on your schedule. Get through those first 4 weeks healthy. Just get through healthy. You gave Alabama a scare at home last year. Maybe you give Miami a scare or a run for their money at home this year. You got to get through Miami, at Tulane, Memphis. That's a 3-week stretch, but you get a bye week before Memphis comes to town. Sorry, JP, kind of going up against you, but like you have some losses to spare. Maybe you lose that game, I win mine, and then
not worried about it.
You go steal a win somewhere else. So South Florida, really good. I love Brown at quarterback. I think the offense is going to be really good again. I think this team can find a way to win 8 games. So that's one of my over totals.
Gotcha. I'm going to stay within G5 here. I'm going to go New Mexico State under 4.5. Guess who's still at this school? Nobody. Everybody left. Like everybody left. It's a completely new roster. They have some guys that stayed around, but those are probably because most of those kids didn't have anywhere else to go. It's just going to be a completely different team than what you've seen. I think we're going to go regress into the mean of what they are usually year in and year out. So under 4.5 for the Aggies. And, 10 wins was cool last year, but literally everybody left that program, and it's just going to be tough. I don't see it. I think you get your rival in New Mexico and some other small ones, but I don't see them competing too much. And you know,
Put a lot of
Conference
wins
USA
together.
is not great, but I just don't see them competing the same way they had been.
If we're going Conference USA, I threw Liberty on there over 10.5 minus. You got to pay minus 138, but you're getting a loss for Liberty. Feels like free money to me. Even if they play App at home, no, they go to App State. If they lose that game, you're still sitting so fine because I think they're going to run through the entire conference. So 10.5 for Liberty is great for me.
Don't mind that one, Chief.
Did anybody happen to have this one on their honorable mentions? I'm in the chat here.
I looked at it. It's really.
This says Missouri over 9.5 at plus 146. By the way, for the podcast crowd.
Good job.
Well, Missouri 146. Well, you got to keep into effect they go to UMass. So
yeah,
they got to get through. They got to get through that healthy. I'm just, if you can hear my pages flipping through here, I should just pull it up on my computer. Here's Missouri's schedule, and I know we've talked about this before. First 4 games of the year: Murray State at home, Buffalo at home, Boston College at home, Vanderbilt at home. Yep. So you're sleepwalking. You have at Texas A&M the following week, and then you have your road trip to UMass. So the first 5 of 6 weeks are cakewalks. I'm assuming, I don't know. I think Texas A&M's a sleeper. I'm not going to guarantee that's a win, but you do get Auburn at home. You go to at Alabama. You get Oklahoma at home. Then you have at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, Arkansas. It's the Power 4 teams are really tough. I think that there's just a lot of good teams that can get you in some interesting spots. I had the under for South Carolina, but that's a road trip for the Missouri Tigers to Columbia, South Carolina in late November. You can catch a team sleeping. That's a game that scares me. At Alabama, let's just say they're at Texas A&M and at Alabama are their for sure losses. They got to run the table and beat Oklahoma at home. You've got to beat at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, Arkansas at home, Auburn at home. Yeah, I think for 146, you're getting very good money with that schedule. I would.
It's a good value, but
because
Go ahead, Jake.
I was just gonna say I know what the offense is going to bring me, so I feel confident. If that bet doesn't hit, I think I can sleep at night knowing what I'm gonna get because I've seen it with that offense.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would say the value on the value. Well, I'm just talking about that. I'd say the value on that makes it interesting. But I think it's also you're putting a lot on that defense they lost a lot of dudes and you lost your defensive coordinator. So that's a big question mark too. You can have that solid offense, but what's that defense going to be like? My last one, JP, I'm just going to do I'm curious. I want to know what you guys would take. I went Michigan State. It's at 4.5. You can get the over for minus 150. You can get the under for plus 126. Where would you guys? Because this is one where I really have no idea where I would put my money. You do under?
Under. I'm getting plus value with that.
I know for a fact I won't be touching it, but if I had to think about it, I think they just lost too much of the lines of scrimmage.
I think you
aren't going to be very good.
Yeah, I think you go under, but it's like the beginning of their schedule, if they can win their 3 out of their first 4, then it becomes harder. But if they only go 2-2, then I think it's much doable because they have a murderer's row again too. This team goes Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, and Michigan. And if you don't get through those healthy, you end the year with the lower of the pack. You get Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers. But Rutgers, we talked about, is going to be a stingier team. I think that's not a game they win at the end of the year. And if you do not get through those games healthy, that murderer's row I just mentioned, I think you lean in under. I don't think there's not enough value in it for me to want to go over. I think you'd want to go under.
Yeah, I agree. I look at Boston College in the middle of September as a must win. And I'm not so sure I can really bank on that being a must win. I don't know if I can say right now that team is winning no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think you're getting great value at plus 126. It feels like this team's at least 2 years away. And Aiden Childs taking over at quarterback, going to take some lumps. I think the line of scrimmages on both sides are not good.
Not great for sure. I agree. And even if they're not good, there's no depth behind them if things go south. No. Let me jump in with one here. How about Baylor under 5.5? Now, I understand Aranda's point when he takes over this defense, and I think it'll improve a little bit just purely based on who's running the show because he's a great defensive mind, right? And I think the offense can maybe improve a little bit. I like DeQuan Finn. I think he's a hell of a get. Why he ended up at Baylor, I'm not sure. Maybe they just threw some private equity firm money at him.
They pay players. They have T-shirts that say they pay players.
It's true.
Don't you know?
But DeQuan Finn's not going to fix all your problems. They bring back a lot of your big-time receivers from last year. But I don't think it's a big enough jump, right? Like, bowl eligibility doesn't seem like this team doesn't scream 6 and 6, 7 and 5 to me. It screams 4 and 8, 5 and 7 for sure. I'll give you the Tarleton. I'll give you Air Force. I'll give you Colorado, BYU. Okay. Those are early. The back half of this schedule does them no favors till Houston late in the year, right? At Iowa State, at Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, TCU, at West Virginia. Okay. Houston, there's your 5th win. Now you're still under 5.5.
Houston beat them at home last year, by the way. Yeah. Keep that in mind.
But then your last one's against Kansas. And if Kansas is healthy with Jalen Daniels and they're fighting for a Big 12 title slot, I don't see 6. I don't see 7. So I'm going to go under 5.5 with Baylor. And I like Aranda. I'm not saying he's for sure dead, but if they get out of the gate hot, like I think they will with just how the schedule lines up, I think he'll be fine. And then maybe they keep him at 5 and 7 if they see some improvement. But it's just not a team overall that I see jumping a bowl eligibility.
Not a lot of confidence.
My Big 12 take is I would just stay away from like your top tier programs, your top 7 or 8 programs, and trying to guess who's going to hit their overs, and take like my BYU, your Baylor, Jordan, take those bottom teams unders, because these teams are all going to cannibalize each other, but the top teams are going to have to beat somebody. And I think that these bottom teams are going to struggle once they get in the heart of the season. Let's go
more here.
Yeah. I got Rutgers over 6.5 plus.
Looked at that one hard.
Love it.
Easiest conference easiest conference schedule in the Big Ten. Sorry. Easiest conference. Easiest conference in the Big Ten. I think they got an upgrade at quarterback. They have a great running back. And we've talked about it. Is this not a top 6 defense in the league?
It's a better defense than you think, for sure.
6 or 7. Looking at their schedule, at Va-Tech in September is interesting, but I've been on this podcast saying I don't think Va-Tech is as good as people think they are.
I see people taking their total and thinking they're going to grab 10.
Yep. Yeah. We saw, you probably watched cover 3
Drones
today.
is good, but like, let's not act like he lit the world on fire the entire year or against the best competition. Now they got hot. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I mean, we're getting touchy.
Rutgers caught him at a good time last year, earlier in the season, beat him by 20. Completely different situation now, but I think this Rutgers team is just as improved as Virginia Tech is. Washington travels across country to play you the week after at Nebraska. Fine. I mean, who's to say you can't win that football game? Wisconsin at home, UCLA. You get both UCLA and Washington traveling across country to play you. You get at USC. Okay, fine. Let's just chalk that one up as a loss. Minnesota at home, Ethan Kaliak Mass's revenge game. I love that.
The Greek rifle.
At Maryland, I probably chalk that one up as a loss. Illinois at home, I think he can get. At Michigan State the end of the year. Who knows where that team will be? We just touched on them. I think that's an easy spot for them to get 7 wins that a team will get fired up for. So I like 100%. This pick.
I have one more I wanted to talk about, and this one I put on here, not necessarily because I lean super hard one way. I definitely lean a certain way, but I wanted to get, kind of the pulse of the room here. How about Clemson over 8.5?
Thought about that one.
Right. If we're regressing to the mean of what Clemson's been through the last couple of years, 9 wins isn't that shocking, right? It should be 9, 10 wins. Now, I see this team as a 9-3, 10-2 team, maybe 11-1. But I do think it's a team that could legitimately battle for the ACC as the odds show. So Georgia, obviously, week 1's not great. That's a tough one to pull. App State at home, NC State to start. That's 3 in a row that are going to be tough. You get 2 of them at home, though. NC State got them a season ago. I'm sure they're looking forward to that one for sure. At Florida State, Louisville, at Virginia Tech. Now, I just don't see I don't see 5 losses at all. It's tough for me to see 4 because I think if things get off track, I think this offense improves enough. I think the defense will still be solid. Maybe not your named bunch, but I think there's plenty of there to look at. I think 9-3 is I kind of 8-4 I see as the absolute bottom for them. So I'm going over because I think 9-3 is possible.
I'm not even a Clemson supporter, but you've got to take this. You've got to. Look at their losses last year. Mm-hmm. The Duke game was an anomaly. Terrible turnovers cost them that football game. You lose to Florida State and Miami both in overtime. What are the chances that's happening again this year? And then you lost to at NC State again by 7 points. You're going to be in every single dogfight. If you're Clemson, the offense takes a step up. I think you hit this easily. I think to wrap this up, I flip to the other side. What about Miami over 9? -125 right now. I saw on DraftKings. This was one of my last teams that I had for my over picks. The season's completely different last year. I think if Mario Cristobal just takes a knee, I really think that. I think this team, obviously they get 8 wins. Maybe they get 9. Who knows? They kind of sputtered at the end of the year with the NC State at Florida State, Louisville combination. And then the Rutgers bowl game, it doesn't count, but whatever. They got a really easy schedule too. If they get through that Florida game first week, I think you're feeling really, really good about even just 9 wins in general. Florida State's at home. Fine, you travel to at Louisville. I don't know how you get both of those schools back to back once again. Apparently the ACC just loves to see that, but no Clemson. No Clemson on that schedule either. You win Florida, man. I think this team can easily get to 10 wins.
Yeah, that's one I've looked at a couple times, but I got yelled at for saying just prove it. I need to see something out of Miami. I just want to see it before I go bet win totals on Miami here. Reese, your thoughts on Miami or any other ones you were curious on?
I like the Clemson play a lot. I think and everybody wants to be hard on Dabo because it's in our nature. But I mean, they won 10 straight games in 12 years or whatever it was. And last year was the first year they dropped down to 8 wins. And I think with that schedule, it's very good. But also you're getting Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley one more year together. So I think there's going to be more trust in that, what he's looking for, what their schemes are. So I think that's a great play. And then I agree with you, JP. Like Miami, I think it's more fun when that Miami team is good. It's good for college football. But it's the same idea. Like they have to prove it. Like we always want to put hype on all these teams. Like I want to put hype on Syracuse this year because they're my team now. But it's like you want to believe in these teams. You want them to succeed. But it's like go out there and do it, and then I can believe it. I want to see the product. Like you saw what they did against Georgia Tech, and it's hard to believe it.
It's in August. I know it's early, but I'm really coming around on, I think Cam Ward can elevate this team so much higher than what they've had at quarterback the last even
throw it to the guys in the right color jerseys, you'll be good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying though? Like I really think Cam Ward can maximize how good this team, that's how good I think he could be this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. No, there's a ton of win totals, and there's no way we got to all of them that we would really love to talk about, but that's why we got a couple more weeks. We'll jump into kind of a win total like game here the next couple of weeks that I'm super pumped to roll out for the first time here on the Play the Fight Song show. So thank you guys for tuning in. Reese, let them know what they should do.
Go like, comment, subscribe.
Perfect. And again, shop No Rivals. Use code PTFS at checkout. Get yourself some free shipping on some awesome hats. You're going to want these hats before week 1 and even week 0. So get them in the mail now.
You're going to be going to some tailgates, and people are going to be like, where did you get that awesome hat? You say shop No Rivals, and you say, oh, you used code PTFS for free shipping.
That's correct. Hey, if we see on social media and you're wearing one, we'll be like, hey, did you use this? Because you need to. We're just trying to help everybody out throughout the country. Schaefer, before we get out of here, anything else to say or anything you want to say on the win totals on this episode? Notre Dame, just looking forward to in the college football season. We're getting inch by inch closer.
16 days, huh, Shafe?
Really, really excited. Notre Dame, for those who don't know, Iowa State's my team, but Notre Dame is my de facto team. It's been a tough week for them, but I really think they have enough pieces to compete with the top of college football this year. I think they've got a good shot. I think the no conference title thing is actually going to be a benefit to them for getting a week off, and they get to host somebody coming to South Bend for a first round playoff game. I think
touchdown, Jesus.
I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. If I had to give you guys a pick before you go out, you're like, man, you guys gave me too many. Which one did I got to pick? Under 3.5 UMass. That's one. Put your real money.
Where else are you getting that pick, people?
I promise you we're cashing.
We dig into the depths of college football to get you the best coverage, the best win totals, and the best bets. Thank you guys for tuning in. I do appreciate it. It's been an absolutely a blast. We'll have Parks back tomorrow, back to him hosting. You won't have to listen to me mess up words half the time, but we do appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in yet again this week. We'll be back next week on Wednesday. Schaefer, take us away.
What?